Hi everyone, I'm Daniel, and it's neutral week. We had all of the class weeks before, and this week we get to talk about the sixth Evergreen Investigator deck, and that is Charlie Kane, the neutral investigator. You've already seen him, but just want to talk about him real quick here on screen because Charlie was one of my favorite investigators in Chapter 1. So I want to give my opinions on what he looks like in this iteration. Well, he's got threes across the board and he has the ability of having an additional ally slot. Original one had three extra, and then reaction after you play an ally asset, gain two resources once per round. Kind of a strong ability, kind of neat in terms of being able to refund you a little bit for playing allies. But I really liked old Charlie. He was really fun and having a more interesting dynamic ability where you got to exhaust your allies, do some math to figure out what your skill value was, and that was like the way you passed tests, right? He had all ones. This one has all threes. So I don't know, it's a little sad to turn him into something that's just like straightforward and strong, but I get that these are supposed to be pretty strong investigator decks, uh, pretty straightforward for new players. So I understand that change. His backside is just 0 to 5 neutral, as we would expect from the neutral deck, as well as 0 to 3 all allies. Nothing else. He doesn't get any other normal class cards, just the allies. Now, his Elder Sign effect, I think, is really interesting. +1, if you succeed, return an ally asset to your hand. And this lets you do a little bit of shuffling, right? You're able to play something, bring it back to your hand. Maybe it has like an on play effect or on enters play effect, or maybe like you just want to get some damage or horror off that ally and play it again. It makes a lot of sense with some of the things that we've seen so far with like Detective Sherman and the Tommy deck, and maybe some other things that are able to have some uses on them. So I think that's cool. Only problem is they're missing a may, like you may on this. So maybe if you don't want to really return that ally asset, you're forced to do so. But I don't know. FFG has been kind of missing this lately on the Elder Signs. They all seem like they're positive things, but I was playing Daniela, the new Daniela Reyes in the core set, and her Elder Sign ability is +1, deal 1 damage to an enemy at your location. And I had to kill one of those doomed bystanders, and it was kind of funny, but I can imagine in the same vein as like Hank accidentally killing off one of his allies, you might return an ally asset to your hand that you didn't want to. So I don't know. I think they should errata this to you may. But 7/7 soak. That's kind of it's below the norm for what we've gotten from the investigator starters, which always had like an extra. But I think with the allies, this makes some sense. And the old Charlie only had 6/6, I think. So I won't bore you with talking more about the signature ally and signature weakness. They're both like pretty bad. So you've already talked about them before. Let's just move on to the four cards that I'm going to preview for you today. The first one here is Calling in Favors level 2. Really neat upgrade. If you remember from back in the Path to Carcosa, there was a level 0 Calling in Favors. That one cost 1 resource. Just had the single intellect and agility icon. This one adds a wild. And the text, I believe, is exactly the same, except for you're searching the top 12 cards of your deck for an ally asset instead of the top 9 from the original Calling in Favors. That plus the 1 resource cost reduction makes this pretty sick, I think, for. Well, anyone can play this. This is a neutral card. So anyone who's trying to get more allies into play, again, refresh any damage or horror or uses on them, is going to like this. It also does a little bit of cost reduction. Kind of interesting with Charlie's ability where he can get 2 resources on top of that. So like he might be making some money from nothing when playing this card. So pretty cool addition. You may remember that I talked about this card on my channel a little while back and said how it was one of my favorite kind of underrated cards. So I'm glad that FFG is reprinting it in some way in Chapter 2, giving us an upgrade and sending me this to preview. So thanks to them for that. Uh, yeah, good card. Let's move on to the next one, which is a totally new card here. This one's an ally. As we would expect, there's probably a lot of allies in the Charlie Kane deck. And this is Humphrey Ellingson, a 3-cost level 2 ally with agility and wild icon. He is a football player by the looks of it, out of his league, ally athlete. You get +1 agility, reaction. After an enemy enters play, deal 1 damage or 1 horror to Humphrey Ellingson. Move once towards that enemy or gain 1 resource. Limit once per round. So like multiple enemies show up that round, you can only do this once. I don't know why they didn't exhaust him, but limit once per round. I guess it's a way of like any shenanigans with readying different assets or allies, which we might get in other cards in this deck. Anyway, 2/2 soak. You're using that soak mostly for this deal 1 damage or 1 horror business to get the movement or the extra resource, which isn't bad. We're seeing more of that idea of using the damage or horror as like kind of a soak situation, or sorry, not soak situation. It's more of like uses. Marcus from the Andre deck kind of had that where you deal him horror every time you fail. Um, Again, calling in favors, or maybe like Charlie's ability or Elder Sign, if you can force that, is going to make this last longer, right? Get him back to your hand, play him again. I like the +1 agility, really. He's got 3s across the board, new Charlie. So with all of the evasion, all of the uh, good reasons to use agility in Chapter 2, I think this is a nice fit. And for anyone else who's playing, you know, the evasion stuff, this is a neutral ally. Like you can add this to your Olivier Bishop, your, Trish in general. That seems pretty solid. A little reminiscent of the hunting dog from the Miguel deck, where you get to move towards an enemy. But I like that gain 1 resource part because sometimes you don't need to move towards the enemy. It spawned at your location and you get the resource out of it. So pretty good. I suppose that's all to say about this guy. I don't know if he's overcosted or not. I haven't seen too many of the other allies in this deck, but I think 2 XP seems okay. Neutral cards tend to be a bit more expensive across the board, so I'm okay with this. This seems like a reasonable cost. All right, let's move on to card number 3. This is the Black Cat returning from the Dream Eaters. Level 5 card, level 5 asset. And this is not a strict reprint from Dream Eaters. This is what they're calling a modified reprint. And the difference here is that you may remember that the old Black Cat had the replacement effects for symbol tokens that were the tablet and Elder Thing token. And this time they've switched that to be the cultist token and the tablet, as well as the Elder Sign. So a little bit of a difference, and you're not allowed to play both of them in the same deck. So you kind of choose which one you want to do. I'm guessing they made this change because of just some overall philosophy about what the Elder Thing token is, and maybe they think that the cultist and the tablet are more on par with each other. That's my best guess here, but it's an interesting modified reprint. Anyway, if you're not familiar with this card, it's a whole lot of soak, but like we were talking about with the previous card and with calling in favors, you're kind of using this soak for something else, and that's replacing the token effects with -1. The Black Cat takes a direct damage for the cultist, and -1 Black Cat takes a direct horror for the tablet. And I think that actually was sort of switched. The tablet before was take the direct damage, and now it's the direct horror one. The Elder Sign +5, heal all damage and horror from the Black Cat. Good for keeping that around, right? A little bit at odds with Charlie's Elder Sign, right? Because you have to replace your Elder Sign effect with this. Where I kind of like the idea of picking up allies. Sort of does the same thing, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I also like thinking about this for the other investigators that we have. Dexter, who has the whole like put multiple things into play or pick things up already built into his ability. It's kind of cool too. You can pick the Black Cat up if there's 2 damage and 2 horror. Play again later. I think he likes calling in favors also. A lot of interesting synergies out there. Black Cat was a staple for old Charlie, right? because it had the other benefit of the two wild icons where old Charlie could exhaust allies like this one and get +3 because it was +1 for each matching skill plus an extra one. And all these abilities were online even if the Black Cat was exhausted. So I don't really know if this works in New Charlie in the same way, like if it's the same kind of like, oh, I really want to consider this. But it is a lot of soak, even if you're not using the rest of the abilities. Good on hard, good on expert. Yeah, I guess that's about it to say for the Black Cat. Always been an interesting card in the card pool, and I guess we're bringing it back. Okay, last card to show you is another reprint. It's Unexpected Courage.